ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो
ओम नमो
भगवते
भगवते
वासुदेवाय।
वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम
ओम
नमो
नमो
भगवते
भगवते वासुदेवाय।
वासुदेवाय।
Okay, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1. So we have already started reading chapter 1. What was the last verse we were reading?
1.4. 1.4.
1.4. Yes. So we discussed the background of Duryodhan. We discussed a bit about Dhritarashtra. We discussed different Vedas. We discussed different other scriptures. How do they fit in into Shruti and Smriti? And also we discussed where does Bhagavad Gita placed within Shruti and Smriti. So Bhagavad Gita is a Shruti within a Smriti. And we also discussed a few concepts about um, the background, basically the background of where the Bhagavad Gita starts, and also which Bhagavad Gita being a part of, or rather an excerpt of Mahabharat. Does anyone know which part of Mahabharat it is? We have discussed this already. Hare Krishna Trupti.
Hare Krishna,
Hare,
everyone.
Hare Krishna Monisha and Vikas.
Bhagavad Gita is part of Bhishma Parvat, chapters 25 to 42.
Hare Krishna Prashant.
Hare Krishna. Sorry for late
Okay, that's
being.
okay. No problem. So Bhagavad Gita is an excerpt from Mahabharat from Bhishma Parva chapters.
Uh, 25 to 42.
Correct. Both inclusive, which make the number of chapters in Bhagavad Gita to be
18.
18. So 18 chapters in Bhagavad Gita. How many verses or shlokas altogether?
700.
700 verses. Okay. And we have also discussed how many verses were spoken by Lord Shri Krishna. Yes? Anyone?
If I'm not wrong, is it 568, Anil?
Okay. I'll share this.
575.
Okay. Yes. 575 is the correct answer. Let me share my screen with you.
Okay.
You'll get
Okay.
the different voices in Bhagavad Gita. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So as a basic understanding, it is said that Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Lord Shri Krishna to Arjun. That's the basic understanding. But it is not the entire Bhagavad Gita that was spoken by Lord Shri Krishna to Arjun. There were other voices also in Bhagavad Gita. So we'll understand that statistic in a few moments, but we'll just go through these statistics. I mean, different voices in Bhagavad Gita first. So Krishna spoke 575 verses from the 700. Arjun about 83 verses, and mostly in chapters 1 and 11, and 28 verses in 12 other chapters. Sanjay, who was narrating the whole war to Dhritarashtra, he spoke about 41 verses or shlokas, and Dhritarashtra spoke one verse, which is the first verse of Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Now, with this understanding, can we say that the entire Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Krishna?
No.
No, right?
No.
There are other voices also. So, can I say that we only read 575 verses which are spoken by by Lord Shri Krishna, and do not read the other verses?
No.
No. Why? Why should we read the other verses?
Otherwise, we'll lose the context.
Sorry. Yes.
We'll lose the context in which
Correct.
he's applying.
Yes. So there will be contextual verses which will be. So what is the context basically? So what is the context doing to where is the what is the support of these verses?
To start with, like, why should I fight my own family and relatives and friends?
Yes. So when these questions, when these kind of arguments come in, they make the message of Lord Shri Krishna clearer. So when we read Bhagavad Gita, we should not avoid reading any of the verse, because generally you will see people say that you only read chapters, these chapters where Krishna speaks, or you only read Karma Yoga, which is essential, and exclude all the other part of Bhagavad Gita, which is incorrect. We should read the entire Bhagavad Gita. It is also said that the proximity builds the quality. So when we say that the proximity of Krishna speaking 575 verses, that builds the quality of whole Bhagavad Gita, although the other 125 verses, they are supporting that quality. So as Manish ji said correctly, the context is equally important to support the message of Bhagavad Gita. So every verse of Bhagavad Gita is equally important as the verse spoken by Lord Shri Krishna. So the underlying thing is that the quality will be built only by the proximity, and the Lord Shri Krishna's verses will be only understood when we understand the whole context. So the message has to be understood clearly. That is the goal. Now, Bhagavad Gita also is known as a Yoga Shastra. Correct? We had discussed this.
Yes.
Why is it called a Yoga Shastra?
Mm. Yoga means connect,
Okay.
and it is also said, and yoga is mentioned 78 times in Bhagavad Gita.
Very good. Okay, I'll share my screen with you again. Well, good answer, Kalpesh. You have, understood that nicely. I'll share my screen. So, Bhagavad Gita is called Yoga Shastra also. And the reason is the word yoga. It appears 78 times in Bhagavad Gita, especially in 15 of the 18 chapters, within 15 of the total 18 chapters. Except in chapter 1, 15, and 17, it does not appear. Otherwise, in the entire Bhagavad Gita, yoga word is used. There are variants like yogi, which are found about 28 times. Yukta, which is found 49 times. Yukta also derives from yoga. It appears 155 times. So 20% of Gita's verses have the word yoga or its related forms. Okay, so we go to the meaning of yoga. What does yoga means?
To connect.
To connect. Who was that? Who did give the answer?
Manisha.
Manisha. Thank you. So yoga is derived from a Sanskrit word yujna, which means to connect. So when we are in yoga, we are in connection with the higher authority or supreme or whatever you call it. So we are in yoga. But when we are not in connection with the supreme or the higher authority, but with the lower authority, that is with the matter, with material things, we are in viyoga. So the opposite of yoga is viyoga. So when we start Bhagavad Gita, Arjun is initially in yoga because he is connected to Krishna, although they both are in the same chariot. After some time, after observing the armies, he goes into Viyoga in chapter 1 itself, which is called Arjun Vishad Yoga or Viyoga. So he laments after observing the armies. We have discussed that. Different sections of chapter 1. Did we do that last time? Have we done the different sections of chapter 1?
I think so, but yeah, I
Anyone?
don't exactly remember.
Yes, it was done.
Okay. Anyone? Prashant or Manish ji or Manisha, Vikas? Do you guys know the different sections of chapter 1?
Yes, so we have read up to 1.4.
Yeah. No,
So we
different sections of chapter 1. So I'll share my screen with you just
Okay.
to show you. Yeah. So
Sainya Nirikshan.
Yeah, Kaya.
okay. So chapter 1 overview.
Chapter 1 to 26 is Nirikshan Yoga.
Yeah. So 1 to 26 observing the armies or Sanya Nirikshan Yoga in Sanskrit. Okay. And from chapter 1 verses 1 to 26 observing the armies or Sanya Nirikshan Yoga. The same chapter 27 to 46 Arjun's lamentation or Arjuna Vishad Yoga. Okay, so these are two main sections of the first chapter, wherein Arjun initially starts to observe the armies and then he laments and decides not to fight at the end of the chapter. So Sadhanirikshan and Arjuna Vishad. So he actually gets affected by the world or by the armies, by his relatives, and he changes in terms of his the will from wanting to fight and giving up. So this is yoga to viyoga. So he was connected with the Supreme. He had the goals cleared, but then he went into viyoga and he did not want to fight. Any questions so far? You understanding everything?
No question.
Okay. And as I see a few people have gone for a break, so we'll wait for them to come back. Okay. Tina and Jay, maybe they'll come back later. No problem. Okay. The reason why I say this, that when Krishna answers all the questions of Arjun being in Viyoga, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, that is chapter 18, the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna asks Arjun a question. He asks him, I'll share my screen with you so we can read what does Krishna ask. Go to chapter 18. Verse 72. Krishna says that Kachit Teda Achyutam Partha Tvaye Kagrena Chetasa Kachit Ajnana Sammoha Panastasta Dhananjaya. He says, O son of Pratha, that is Pratha meaning Kunti, O conqueror of wealth, which is Dhananjay, two different names of Arjun, have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are your ignorance and illusion now dispelled? So after seeing Arjun in Viyoga, that is being not in focus, losing focus, being distracted, and being disconnected from the Supreme, he asks in this question after explaining everything in chapter 18, that are you now out of ignorance and has your illusion now dispelled? Are you back in yoga? Are you focused again? So Arjun answers in the next verse, that is 18.73. He says, Nashto Arjuna Uvacha, Nashto Moha Smritir Labdha, Tvat Prasadan Mayachuta, Sthitosmi Gata Sandeha, Karishye Vachanam Tava. He says, my dear Krishna, O infallible one, which means Achyuta, which is Achyuta in Sanskrit, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. And I'm now firm and free from doubt and prepared to act according to your instructions. So at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Arjun comes back into yoga. So Arjun had all the skills to fight, but he did not have the right focus and not the will to fight. But by the end of Bhagavad Gita, he regains his memory and he also develops the will to fight and act according to Krishna's instructions, which is called yoga. That is why this is called the Yoga Shastra. Any questions so far or comments?
So why did he say that I've regained the memory? Like, did he know this before, or?
So when we, or Arjun for that matter, when according to his realization, he went in ignorance because his senses were bewildered after looking at his relatives and the people he knew, his teachers, with whom he had to fight. So he went into an ignorant mode. He forgot his duty. So because he forgot his duty and now he remembers his duty, he's saying that I have regained my memory as I know my duty very well, which is to follow your instructions and fight. Does it answer your question, Manishji?
Yes, because most of us, we don't know what our duty is. So.
Yeah. So that is dharma where we are talking about. So when we say duty of Arjun as dharma, he just followed what Krishna told him and he followed him after Bhagavad Gita,
Thanks.
after he heard the Bhagavad Gita. So when we read Bhagavad Gita, we should try and put ourselves in Arjun's shoes and understand Bhagavad Gita like Arjun did, so that we can also act according to our dharma. That is the best way of understanding Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So I will go back onto chapter 1. We also discussed the background of Duryodhan as to where Bhagavad Gita started, the first verse started, and what was the state of Duryodhan and Dhritarashtra. Now we will be just doing a bit of a recap and a little more elaboration on understanding all the lineage and the characters, which are an important part, though not mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, but good for the understanding so that we understand the context and the state of Dhritarashtra. Everyone knows who's Dhritarashtra.
Yes.
I will ask the new members, Karan and Anu. You know who's Dhritarashtra?
He was the king at that time,
Yes, he was the king at that time. Yes.
father of Duryodhan.
Very good. Yes, he was the father of Duryodhan, and Duryodhan was on the right side or on the wrong side.
Was on wrong side, not following the dharma.
Good, very good. Okay, so we discussed about Duryodhan in our previous classes, which Kalpesh can share with you the discussions. You'll be able to get the background of, there's a detailed background of Duryodhan as to where the Bhagavad Gita started, what was the state and the attitude of Duryodhan.
Okay.
So now we will discuss about Dhritarashtra as to what was his state, because we discussed a little bit about it, but we'll discuss a little more in detail as to understand what was his plight and attitude, and what was his basically attitude or state of mind as to when he was listening to Bhagavad Gita. Okay, there are Dhritarashtra. So there are 4 generations basically here, which we'll be speaking about. The first generation, the lowest of all, was Duryodhan. So Duryodhan, Arjun, Bhim, all these are the lowest or the youngest, I would say, not the lowest, the youngest generation, the current generation. There was one more generation, which was younger to them, which was Abhimanyu, the son of Arjun and the sons of Duryodhan, but they were not the main warriors or the Maharathis, as we discussed in our last class. Who are the Maharathis? The main warriors who can fight with multiple soldiers at the same time. The main what do you call, captains, as we call them, the captains within the war. So the youngest generation has Abhimanyu and sons of Duryodhan. We will not discuss about them, but we'll discuss the generation from Duryodhan. So that being the youngest generation, if we consider that being the active people in the war. Above that, anyone knows the father apart from Dhritarashtra? Who was the father of Pandavas?
Pandu.
Pandu. So Pandu, Dhritarashtra, and there was one more brother,
Vidur.
Vidur. So yes, Vidur. So Vidur, Dhritarashtra and Pandu, they were of the same generation. Anyone knows who was their father?
Maharshi Vyas.
Vyasa Muni. Okay, so Vyasa Muni, and does anyone know who was in his generation? People in his generation?
Bhishma.
Bhishma,
Vichitraveer.
Vichitraveer, and
Guru Parshuram.
no, just respect to at this in Mahabharata terms. Parashuram was in different era.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyone with that one last name?
Dronacharya.
No. Chitrangad, being in the dynasty, in the same dynasty.
Chitrang.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Dynasty.
in the same dynasty, the same, I mean, generation within the dynasty. So Chitrangad, Vichitravir, Vyasamuni, and Bhishma is the generation above Dhritarashtra and Pandu. Okay. Now, Vichitravir, Chitrangad, whose their father was? Vichitravir and Chitrangad's father was
Shantanu.
Shantanu. So, Vichitravir and Chitrangad, they were the sons of Shantanu
Satyavati.
and Satyavati. Okay. So now,
And Satyavati.
yeah. So we'll go from top now. So we went from the ladder from bottom to up. Now we'll go from Shantanu. So Shantanu comes from the lineage of King Bharat. King Bharat. But we will not discuss it. Otherwise, the whole 1 hour will go just with the names. So King Bharat origin, and in the same lineage we come to Shantanu. So King Bharat is the one on whose name we have our country's name, Bharatvarsha. Comes from King Bharat. And Shantanu married Ganga. The Ganga river which we, So he married Ganga. And they had 8 children. Out of them, 7 were killed by Ganga due to a curse in their previous life. They had to leave the Mrityu Loka or the earth as soon as possible due to a curse. So that's why Ganga drowned them into the Ganga itself so that they can be released from this world. So 7 of them were released like that. The 8th son, Shantanu, went and asked Ganga as to, you cannot drown my 8th child also. I have lost 7 children. So please don't drown my 8th child. And she had taken a promise from Shantanu that if whenever you ask a question, I will take the child and go. And you have to, I'll separate from you. Our marriage will end and I'll just go. So she left with the 8th child, but she told him that I will come back once he's grown up. So she brought back Devavrat, who was later named as Bhishma. Okay. So when he was grown up, Ganga brought him back to Shantanu. And then the story continues, wherein Shantanu was attracted to another lady who was a fisherwoman. Her name was Satyavati. Satyavati was also a boat woman who used to take people from one place to the other on the boat for crossing the river. She used to help do that just as a assistance to her father. And while she was doing that, she met Parashar Muni. That is before her marriage to Shantanu. So is everyone understanding where I'm going? Please ask me questions. Yeah.
Yes, we are understanding.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So Satyavati met Parashar Muni. And while she met Parashar Muni said, this is a very auspicious time for you to have a baby, but if you receive this soul and have a baby, your virginity will not be lost and you'll still remain pious. And there is a higher reason for this one. So you please beget a child, and that child was Vyasa Muni, Vedavyas. Okay. So Vyasa Muni was born at that auspicious time, and he was born and he was Satyavati's child. Later, Shantanu got married to Satyavati. And he begot two children, two boys from Satyavati. They were Vichitraveer and Chitrangad. They married Amba, Ambika, Ambalika. Okay, whom Bhishma got it from the kingdom. That is another story, but we will not get into that. Bhishma
So,
did not marry because
So-
he took a vow. Yes.
Amba
Yes.
was not married.
Yeah. I'm coming to that.
Amba became Shikandi.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So Amba, Ambika, Ambalika, they were three wives, but Amba, because she wanted to marry someone else, Bhishma took her and sent her back to her kingdom. That's another story. We will not get into that. So Ambika and Ambalika were the two princesses who were married to Vichitraveer and Chitrangad. Sorry, Chitrangad also died because of he was not physically strong. He was very weak, so he had a lot of diseases. So he was dead. So Vichitraveer got married to Ambika and Ambalika. But Vichitraveer also, after some time, he also died. They did not have any children. So now Satyavati asked Bhishma to marry Ambika and Ambalika. But Bhishma refused because he had taken the oath of being celibate, a brahmachari. So he did not marry. So he said, I have taken an oath that I will not marry. There is another story to that. We will discuss that later. So ultimately, Satyavati had to call upon her previous child. Who was that?
Vedyas.
Vyasamuni. To beget children from Ambika and Ambalika. So Vyasamuni begot children from Ambika and Ambalika who were Dhritarashtra and Pandu. And also he begot one child from a maid servant because the two princes, one was scared and the other closed her eyes while Vyasamuni came to meet them. That's why one got a blind child and the other one got a weak child, who was Pandu. That is, one blind child was Dhritarashtra and the other one was Pandu, was not physically strong. So that's why to have one healthy child, Satyavati asked Vedvyas to beget a child from a maid servant. And that was Vidur, who became the minister of the kingdom. Yeah, understood so far? Any questions? Yes, Abhijit. Question?
Sir, I was reading
Mahabharata. Yeah.
Light. I was reading Mahabharata, as I had told you.
Yeah.
In that, the story is a little twisted.
Okay.
She asked Ambika again to go with, for the
correct,
conceiving.
correct,
But
correct,
then
correct.
she was so afraid
Afraid that
she planted the maid servant over
correct,
there
correct.
in the robe, and then
Correct.
afterwards it
Correct. You're right.
So
Yeah.
Satyavati had not asked the maid servant.
Yeah, correct. Good, Abhijit, good. So ultimately they had three children. So one was Vichitraveer, one was Dhritarashtra, one was Pandu, and the third was Vidur. So that is the generation we are at the moment. Okay.
Yep.
Any questions so far?
It's a very complicated family.
So, question.
Yes.
So, sir, you have one child who is blind, is disabled. You have another child whose health is so bad
Inconsistent.
inconsistent.
Yes.
And you have the third child who's fit and very intelligent.
Yes, and intelligent. Yes.
So why wasn't he made a king, sir? Because
Very
they
good
all
question.
come.
Yeah, absolutely. He was the rightful king. But because Janma was more important than karma.
But sir, Janma, they all have the same father.
Yes, but they do not have, she was a maid servant. That was the
But the
point.
father same, sir.
Yes, but because she was a maid servant and the other were a princely family, so Pandu was given the kingdom. He had that Janma over karma.
So, sir, I'm sorry, I'm
The
just wrapping my
father
head
was a
around it.
Brahman, no? But
Sorry? No, the prince, that
the
lady, that
father,
is Ambika, the
Right.
Balika. She was from a princely family.
But sir, if we flip it around,
Hmm.
if a princess married a person from a lowly family,
Mhm.
would that child again not be entitled to be a prince?
I don't know about that complexity that Vidur can answer. But Vidur,
Okay, okay.
As per Vidur Niti also, because there are two
Uh-huh.
Nitis. One is Vidur Niti and then there is Chanakya or Kutaniti,
All right,
which is Artha Shastra, and Vidur is a higher Dharma Shastra.
all right, sir.
So Vidur Niti, he decided, he was the one who was the minister, and as per him, he said Pandu was the rightful person to be on the
Mhm.
kingdom.
Okay, I'm just
Yeah.
looking at it from a
But
line of succession, sir.
Yes,
but
yes,
but
yes.
but Prabhuji, that niti is not in line with what Bhagavad Gita says, right?
Bhagavad Gita, what does Bhagavad Gita say?
Bhagavad Gita says that the karma is more important than janma.
Yes,
Good
that's
point.
right.
Okay, so
Good point. And sir, going by what Kalpesh just brought up, is the person among all three of them who probably had the best karma would be again Vidur, correct?
Correct, absolutely. He was the rightful candidate, no doubt about it.
From even
basically
a
many.
dharma point of view.
Sorry?
Even
He
from
was
a
a
dharma
Dharmaraj.
point of view.
Yeah, he was a Dharmaraj also. He was the rightful candidate to be the king. But just because he was the son of a maid servant,
So
he
basically,
was not.
after King Bharat, many wrong decisions were done that possibly led to Mahabharata as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Even till today.
So, sir,
Yeah.
because he did not interject when Draupadi was being disrobed, he just kept silent,
Who?
just
Who
like
kept silent?
we're talking about Vidur here too.
No, Vidura didn't keep silent. Vidura spoke the most at that time. He tried to
But sir,
convince
he didn't
everyone
stop.
to
He
stop
didn't stop it.
because he was not powerful enough to stop because he was just a minister. What can he do? The kings and everyone is not doing anything. What would you do?
No, but he was
Okay.
not also there. That time he was not there. He left before that, that Duryodhan kingdom, he left before that.
Okay. The point is that he tried, he can only argue, he cannot fight because he does not have the right to fight.
Okay. Sir, I'm simply drawing a line and I'm saying is, did it happen or did it not happen? And if
What?
it did happen, on whose side was he? You
Whose
get my
side?
point, right?
Whose side was who? Vidura?
Yeah, Vidur is now sitting with Dhritarashtra while the army is taking place. Dhritarashtra is siding with his sons. So doesn't that actually make him on the side of Adharma?
Say that again. What did you say?
Since he's sitting with Dhritarashtra right now, and it's Dhritarashtra's kids and the gurus out there who are fighting a battle on the basis of dharma versus adharma.
No, that's not the thing. The thing is that Vidura always spoke about dharma and niti.
Right.
For that, he had to lose his job also. So at one point, Dhritarashtra even expelled him from prime ministership.
I understand that, sir, and
So
that's
he took
very
that.
noble of him. But
Yeah.
right now, as it stands in the Mahabharata, while Krishna is actually explaining the
At the time of
Bhagavad
war,
Gita.
uh Vidur was no more a prime minister. He was also he dispelled him. They took him out from
Okay,
his position.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's
He
what
was not
threw
a
me
prime
off.
minister anymore. Yeah. He had to
Okay,
lose his job because of Dharmaniti.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
So he was that.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Any
I
other
think
questions?
I think he lost his job twice. Second one was the last time. And he never came back.
Yeah. So he was always wanting to, put the niti and dharma over on top of everything. So even when he spoke about he being but he was intelligent, but he was not uh, a good administrator, as he would put it, that he would not be able to fight as good as Pandu. That was one of his argument also. Although Pandu was not physically weak, that doesn't mean that he was not physically strong. He was diseased. He had some disease, as they were saying. He got, because Ambalika went pale when she saw Vyasamuni. So he had that, what you call intermittent disease in him, Pandu. But he was not
He had
physically.
deficiency of vitamin C.
So whatever you put it, but
He was pale.
he was,
I mean,
yeah, he was pale. So he was not that, what you call, physically he was okay, but it was just that he was intermittently sick. That's how it was, as we put it today.
So, Prabhuji, one question on the lineage, if it's okay.
Yeah.
We keep saying that, that Shantanu and then Bhishma, Vichitraveer, Pandu, Dhritarashtra, Arjun, they are all lineage of King Bharat. But
Yeah.
King Bharat did not appoint his sons, right? He appointed
So
someone
lineage,
else. So it's
yeah.
not a-
So correct. So lineage in terms of at the time, it was by karma he'd appointed one king. But what happened after was lineage in terms of kingdom, not in terms of Janma
not in
at
terms
that
of
point.
DNA.
But afterwards, it was Janma which took over karma.
Okay.
So it was just that generation where King Bharat spoke to the Raja Rishis and he spoke to the sadhus, and he understood that karma was more important. So this is how you see, if you see the eras which change, like Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar and Kali Yuga, what changes is the consciousness of a person. So you go on to the lower consciousness. So dharma, when we say dharma is deteriorating, it means the person is going into the lower mode. So when we talk about that, we go into that aspect of intelligence and mind. A little deeper here, I'll say that mind will always take a lower position. Intelligence takes a higher position. So mind is always compared to the water. So when we see water always, goes and settles down in the lower areas. So mind will always drag you down to do something which is of lower consciousness. So we have to use our buddhi, which King Bharat used, and he chose the higher based on the karma, not by janma, by his capability. But over a period of time,
Is
when we,
also,
sorry,
Prabhuji, it is happening nowadays also. Like
Yeah.
Rahul Gandhi
Yeah.
thinks that he has to be prime minister because he has got this
Yeah.
family, all. So it depends person
Yeah.
to person who is taking
So
the decision.
so if we see the yogas, so what changes is the lower consciousness. That the consciousness changes from high to low. So this is what gets deteriorated. So over a period of time, the mind takes over the intelligence, and that takes you to the lower consciousness. We'll discuss further in Bhagavad Gita about all these aspects. But this is what. So what you like to do, basically, what you like to do is that you would like to give something which you have, like a king would like to make his son as the higher, rather than a capable person of doing so, or giving the kingdom to a capable person. So that is the liking which takes over the rightful thing. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is the same thing happened with Dhritarashtra also. It's good that you raised this point, because our next discussion is based on that. So these are the 4 generations which we are dealing with at the moment. So Vyasamuni, that is the position of Vyasamuni. So now why we are discussing all this is because Vyasamuni, when he heard about the news of the war, He came to Dhritarashtra to stop the war. And Dhritarashtra told him that I cannot do that. I cannot stop the war. Vyasamuni said, you are the emperor. You are the king. You have the control. You can stop the war. He said, I cannot, because I cannot go against the will of my son. So he was attached to Duryodhan. That's what the point I was trying to come at. He was attached to Duryodhan. So when you are attached to something, then the powerful becomes powerless. Why? Because your decisions are based on whom you are attached to. Your decisions are not the right decisions because they are not your own decisions. They are based on whom you are attached to. So the powerful becomes powerless when he is attached. So that was the state of Dhritarashtra. Even being the emperor, he could not take his decisions because he was attached to Duryodhan. Okay, so that was one point. And when Krishna came for a Sandhi Prastav, we discussed this in our last class as to what are the background, what was the background of that, Sanjay and everyone. Yes, everyone remembers? Krishna going to Hastinapur for the peace treaty.
Yes.
He tried
Yes.
all the 4 ways.
Yes, Samadama Dandabhed. So he tried all those things, all the negotiation skills, but he couldn't, convince. And when he was leaving Hastinapur, Dhritarashtra said, "Oh Yadav, I cannot go against the will of my son. I am helpless." So that's where Krishna turned around and he said to Dhritarashtra in front of everyone that look at this emperor of this world, he's helpless. So the powerful becomes powerless when he is attached. So to understand the concept that when we, as for application, if we think about it, if we are attached to something or some person, then that is the control of our decision, not us. That attachment is our control. That attachment controls us. Our decisions are blurred, not clear, because the attachment drives them. Did you understand this with the Dhritarashtra example?
Yeah. That was really good.
So when, so this point, so where we were at a point when Vyasamuni came to Dhritarashtra. Now he said one more thing to Dhritarashtra, that you have already experienced Krishna and seen Krishna's Virat Roop. Yes? So Dhritarashtra said yes, because he had seen Krishna and he got the sight, the eyesight to see Krishna when Krishna came for the Sandhi Prastha, for the peace treaty. He gave him eyes to see his Virat Rupa. So when Duryodhan tried to capture him at that time, so Dhritarashtra could see, and he understood that it is not possible for Duryodhan to win this war against Krishna. It is not possible. He will never win. He will lose. So when Vyasamuni came to Dhritarashtra just before the war, asking him to stop the war, he said, I cannot stop it. So Vyasamuni gave him one more aspect or one more deal. He said, you can see the war. I will give you eyes. So that was Vyasamuni's words. So he said he wanted to, he could not say yes to that as well. He wanted his sons to win. So the concept here, which was understood, was that he was hoping for the impossible, but fearing the inevitable. So he was hoping that his sons will win, but he had a fear that they will not. It is inevitable that Krishna will win, Arjun will win. So he had these two things in his mind. Yes.
So
Kalpesh.
Prabhuji, during that time, war meant when there is a war between these two parties, it meant that one party has to die, right? For other party to win the war.
Yes. Yes. So he knew that Duryodhan cannot win, but he was hoping for the impossible. So this was his state. Okay. So he said, okay, but he cannot see his sons dying. That's why he didn't want it to see. But he cannot stop his son from not fighting because he was attached to his son. He cannot go against his will. So then he said that instead of me, you give those eyes to see the war to Sanjay. This is how Sanjay got the eyes to see the war. Now the next thing is here. Where the eyes which we talked that Sanjay had got to see, we discussed length and breadth on that one last time. Just a quick understanding of that he was given the eyes of perception, because perceiving something is more than seeing something. So there are people, basically, the people who are more successful, as we say, they can perceive better than others. The scope of perception is higher in some people than the others. That's why any uncertain circumstance or a question given to two people, one person succeeds because he has a better perception. Does it make sense? So Sanjay was given that extra perception to see the whole battlefield as a boon from Vyasadeva. That was the power he was given. So when we talk about this mystical power, it's still there in people. The amount is less. He was given that perceiving power in abundance. Regarding the science of it, we have discussed it already in our last class. Okay. So that is how Sanjay got the power to see. He could see even small pockets of the whole battlefield and could elaborate it to Dhritarashtra. So he can see Dhritarashtra at the same time, and he can see Duryodhana at the same time fighting. He can see Yudhishthira at the same time, everyone at the same time. But I can't see anyone. Everyone is just gone. Are you guys there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we are.
Yes, absolutely.
Why this deal has offered by Vyasmuni?
Okay. I can only hear a few sounds with the background.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Good. Slowly they're popping out.
Yeah.
Prabhuji,
Yes.
you should perceive us, sir.
I can't. I'm not Sanjay. I don't have the powers.
Be the Sanjay.
I'm an ordinary human being. All right. So we are back.
Pravat,
It's just that I'm putting everyone on mute just because there is some distraction. So if you guys want to speak, please unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, but don't switch off your video because we
Yeah.
don't know who's speaking then.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. So that brings us to the state of Dhritarashtra, that he is hoping for the impossible and fearing the inevitable. That's why I wanted to just revisit, based on this background, revisit 1.1, because we have a few newcomers also here. The first verse of Bhagavad Gita, I'll share my screen. Has anyone memorized that verse?
Yes, I have.
Who has memorized?
Manisha.
Manisha, please go ahead.
Dhritarashtra uvacha dharmakshetre kurukshetre samaveta mamakaha pandavashaiva kimakurvata Sanjaya.
Wonderful, wonderful, great. Well done. And sung in a meter. Very nice. So I have just shared my screen with you all. So Dharam Kshetre Kurukshetre, that is the first part of this verse, as we term it as A. Samaveta Yuyutsavaha is B. Mamakaha Pandavascha Eva, it is C. Kim Akurvata Sanjaya is D. So basically, Dhritarashtra, in that state of mind which we just discussed, is saying that, O Sanjay, after my sons and sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? So this question, if you look at the verse again, so this part of the verse, it says, Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. So Samaveta Yuyutsavaha, which means that assembled to fight. Assembled, desiring to fight. And the next one, which this is Samaveta Yuyutsavaha, is B. So B contradicts D. Kim Akurvata Sanjaya. What did they do? This is like somebody asking that we went to the restaurant after booking a table, we sat there, what did we do? Of course you'll eat. Yes? So they say you assembled there desiring to fight. What did they do? So that is the state of Dhritarashtra's mind. That he is fearing from the inevitable, but he is expecting that something will happen, that this fight will not take place. And his son will get the kingdom without fighting. You know, Samaveta Yuyutsava. So these are the two contradictory statements. And next one, Mamakaha Pandavascha Eva, where he says that Mamakaha Pandavascha Eva means my party, you know, my sons and Pandu's sons, although it is the same dynasty. But here he has this biased mindset when he considers Pandavas as different to this dynasty. And the major reason of his fear is in A, is Dharam Kshetre Kurukshetre, which is in the place of pilgrimage, in the place named Kurukshetra, because they're fighting in Kurukshetra, which is also a Dharam Kshetra. At such a pious place where the entire vibe will be supporting the dharma, it is very difficult. It is impossible for the adharma to win. That is his fear.
So he has that kind of a vision or kind of understanding of dharma and adharma very well at the beginning itself.
Yes, he knows that that place is a place of pilgrimage. Like, for example, when we go to a temple, you know, we go to a temple, the vibe itself is that, no, this is a place of worship. We are not supposed to, you know, drink liquor here. We are not supposed to do any inauspicious activities. It's automatic. So that vibe of the place will only support dharma.
Right.
He knows that. So that is his fear.
At the
Yes,
same
Rishi.
time, he also agreed that his son is not fall in place of dharma the way he started this initiated all the assets.
Yeah. Sorry, Prashant. Can you say that again, please?
At the same time, he was very well assured or sure about his son is not in a place or in line with the dharma.
Correct, because he had seen Krishna. He had
Okay.
seen Krishna with his own eyes, and he came to negotiate. He came down to the point that you just give us 5 villages and we will not fight. Although it didn't comment anywhere that they are incapable of fighting.
Did he not ever since that try to convince or try to talk Duryodhana?
Yeah, we did. Were you there last time, Prashant?
Yes,
Last time? Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, we discussed the whole background as to how Krishna went and discussed with Duryodhan, discussed with Dhritarashtra, discussed with the whole court, his 98 brothers, apart from Dushasana and Duryodhan. He tried
Publicly,
all the
yes.
types of negotiations. Yeah,
Publicly, yes, Krishna was there. He's trying to reference,
negotiate.
negotiate, and all those things. But as a
Yeah,
part of fatherly figure, he did or not? That's the question.
who as a Dhritarashtra, is it?
Yeah.
Dhritarashtra would never go against Duryodhan's will because he knew his will was to get the entire kingdom. And very good point also, Prashant, here is that Dhritarashtra from his inside has this thing that I should become the king.
Okay.
He was just a caretaker at the point because Pandu went to the forest and he became a caretaker king. But
Okay.
ultimately he wanted to become the king, from
Got
his heart. So if he could not become the king, he wanted Duryodhan to become the king.
got your point. That was his mindset behind that thought process.
Yes. And that was also the fear that this is somewhere wrong I'm trying to do at Dharmashetra. So he was hoping that some magic will happen and this war will not take place. That's why this question that when they went, 2 armies are standing in front of each other, what did they do? Yes, Rishi.
So, Prabhuji, this conclusion about Dhritarashtra that we have, then why did Krishna show himself to such a kind of person? Like the Krishna, when he's a Virat roop, he allowed Dhritarashtra sight to see him.
So that if he, as a king, can do something and stop this war.
Oh, okay. That was also part of the negotiation.
Absolutely. So Krishna tried everything. Divine Sam Dama Dandabhed. He tried literally everything to stop the war.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
So I can say that here, if you see Krishna's life in Dwapar Yug, so every time from the childhood, he has shown that he's a god.
Sorry, Mataji, can you say that again?
Yeah, I'm saying that Krishna in the Dwapar Yug, when he was there, and then from the childhood when he born, he has shown himself that he's a god. He never hidden that himself, that he everywhere.
Yeah, his qualities and everything are seen, but many people could see him, many people couldn't.
Yeah, because everywhere he said, I'm God, but
Yeah,
still
yeah.
people still now today
I
when people argue, oh, he's not a God.
Yeah. So at the same place, there was Vidur and Bhishma who could see his Virat Roop and understand, yes, Krishna is God. At the same was Duryodhan who couldn't understand, still wanting to fight against him. Yeah, you're right.
I shared one posted on Bhagavad Gita last week. It says that Bhagavad Gita was recited twice in real time. First through Lord Krishna to Arjuna, and second through Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra. It was the same Gita, same words, same teachings, but only Arjun understood it completely, while it has zero effect on Dhritarashtra because he
Very
simply
nicely said.
listened to it.
Yeah, that is why if you see the last verse which I shared with you just now, I mean, at the beginning of our discussion today, if you see 18.72, so I'll just go into 18.72. He says, what Krishna says, O Pratha, O Partha, O conqueror of, O son of Pratha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? You know, what was Dhritarashtra listening? The fearful mind, with a lot of, you know, a background, with a lot of expectation, with a lot of, you know, impossible thoughts. So if he was listening to Bhagavad Gita like Arjun was, he would have definitely understood something. Yes, Randhir.
Randir, you're on mute. Randir, you are on mute, buddy.
Maybe that's the question he's asking, how to unmute.
I think we should send him the message he can't hear.
That's okay.
I just sent him.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
hear. Sir, you just gave a reference to 18.72, I believe, or
Yes.
7. Yeah, okay.
7.2.
Where,
Yeah.
7.2, where he says that, have you understood
Krishna.
this?
Krishna says that.
Krishna says, have you understood
Have you heard this with attentive mind?
with attentive mind? Okay. Now, if we take into context, the 18.70, that and I declare, I mean, that's the Sanskrit version, but and I declare that he who studies the sacred conversation of ours worships me by his intelligence. So if this is being said on 18.7 and Krishna ends it with 18.72, whereas if Sanjay has told this to Dhritarashtra, why won't Dhritarashtra pick it up? Why won't he understand it?
Yeah. Good question, isn't it?
And
For
one more thing
Dhritarashtra.
is on 14.27 and a couple of verses later on, Krishna himself explains that he is the supreme Godhead. Earlier, he doesn't say that.
Yes.
From 14.27, he basically states that I am this.
Yes.
Right? So when it is factually explained, if Arjuna can understand it, again, to whom it has been relayed, word to word, he isn't able to pick it up. I think he can't pick up the context, right?
Yeah. So there are a few people who understand. There are a few different kind of people. I think 4 or 5. I'll just name it a few. Some people, hear something from someone and they feel it right and they do it. They understand that with an attentive mind. If they feel it is correct, they start doing it. The first category, top category of people. They hear from the sadhu or they hear from the shastra and they start doing that. Correct things. Second type of people that they see someone practicing it and they start following it. Hearing and seeing someone and they start doing it. Third kind of people who even after seeing that someone is going bad, is not following and having some bad kind of consequences, they still don't understand, they don't follow it. So, and the worst kind of people, they actually go through that problematic things, they will go through all the kind of suffering, but even then they will not accept. So I don't know which category you'd like to fit him, but so there are still those kind of people. So
In fact, what I read from our today's lesson is that Dhritarashtra did actually understood, but he was not ready to change, because he did say that he cannot go against his son's will. So he know what is right thing to do, but he couldn't do because of his attachments. So his he was basically tied down by emotions and attachments.
Okay. So just to end with our discussion today, I'll just share my screen with you to answer the first verse of Bhagavad Gita of Dhritarashtra, 18.78, the last verse of Bhagavad Gita, which says, Yatra Yogeshwaraha Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhuti, Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Says, wherever there is Krishna, the master of mystics, and wherever there is Arjun, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. So, this is the answer to the question of Dhritarashtra. Not direct, but the kind of expectation he has in terms of something unusual will happen and my son will win. So 18.78 answers that question. Yes, Randir. You're on mute again, my friend.
Kalpesh, that's him doing it.
No, I did not mute him now. I did not.
It's his. Okay. 18.78, you just brought this up. You're saying is okay, this is the point, right? And then I've forgotten the verse, but there's a explanation being, I'll always be here, you'll always be here. It's the immortal soul which goes through, the body is shed.
That is chapter 2.
Chapter 2. So the question in this case is, he is here, I can understand that. But then how is he giving a connection to Arjun being a supreme archer? Where do we fit in, sir?
That's what happens when we hear chapter 2 and then come back to chapter 1.
You understand my point, right?
Yeah. We'll discuss that when we come to chapter 2. Okay, Randir?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, because there are new people, they don't know the reference to that one,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, chapter 2, chapter 18. I'm saying, make up my mind.
Yeah, that's fine. But the reason why I brought this up is because the question which Dhritarashtra asked was not a correct question. It was not a question at all. I would say it was it was just the concoction he had in his mind. So to clarify the concoction, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly said that whenever there is Krishna and Arjun on one side, that side cannot be defeated. That side will always win. And he himself had seen Krishna's Virat Roop. And asking this question shows this question an inappropriate question from his end. Okay. So we will end our discussion here unless there are any other questions.
We did not do 1.4 today.
Yeah, we had to do. We'll do it in the next class. 1.5, right? 1.5,
yeah.
1.5 and 1.6 we will do in the next discussion. So we will do in the next discussion 1.5, 6 and 7, 3 verses. That's what we'll be doing. Okay. All right. Thank you all. And we will see you next week. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.